Hey, welcome to A Faster Me. Today we're out at beautiful Benelli Park, and today's video is going to be about training, just some 3x8 threshold intervals. So hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so after a 25-minute warm-up, you want to hold your threshold for 8 minutes with 4 minutes rest in between. We're going to do 3 sets, so 3x8 threshold intervals. All right, so some of you may not know that I signed up for a cycling coach, or I signed with the cycling coach. I actually went with Elevate Coaching with Chaz Torman, and I'm in my 3rd week of training under Chaz, and so far so good. So a lot of people have been asking me, why get a coach? Why did you get a coach? They're too expensive. Why wouldn't you just train yourself or just ride hard or whatever the case may be? And let me tell you my story of how or why I got a cycling coach. So, I've been cycling for almost 3 years now, and when I first started, I just was riding, and no matter what, when you get off the couch and you start riding, you're going to improve. You're going to get faster just from being active again. So around 6 months of just, riding just for the fun of it, I decided that, hey, I want to get to a point to where I can race. And my goal was just to become a Cat 5 racer. It's kind of funny. That's like, it's not like I was actually shooting for, I don't know, to explore the galaxy or anything. I was just trying to get my foot into racing and just thought that would be a big achievement for me. So after those 6 months or whatever, I went and did a lot of research on training and how to get faster and things like that. And I came up with my own 3-month base training plan. Both my wife and I followed that plan for 3 months, pretty much to a T. And we improved a lot and learned a lot about cadence, heart rate, power, things like that. Went and bought a power meter. And then after that, I did another 3 months on my own of structured training, just that I, of course, did a lot of research again and pieced together like a training plan and got even a lot faster. I was a little bigger back then, I was a little stronger at the time, and I was able as a max to hold 290 watts for an hour. It wasn't during a test, but it was during an actual ride, and I didn't know that 290 was pretty good at the time, but I always just thought like, oh, I'm too slow to race. Thought that, I needed to be a lot faster. So anyway, winter came along, and we decided to go 3 months of all indoor training. So we said, hey, let's do one of these Zwift training plans, see if that can make us even stronger. And I ended up doing, I can't remember if it was the Zwift FTP builder or if it was the off-season training plan. Anyway, that was like a major mistake for me. We did the 12-week plan, pretty much to a T. The training plan, in my opinion, had some flaws or miscommunication, and this is kind of where one of the places a coach would come in. But the training plan ended up having no rest days, things like that, and had nothing to do with how your body felt or how your work week was or anything else. It was just do these workouts on, these days. So at the end of that 12 weeks, I was a lot slower. I dropped my FTP probably by 35, 40 watts dropped. Yes, I could have been overtrained, could have had some other issues going on. I did have some hip pain and things like that. But either way it goes, I got a lot slower. It actually worked for my wife. She got a lot stronger. We are different types of riders though. And yeah, so I was super frustrated with getting that slow or becoming that slow, even though overall I felt like I was more fit and getting more fit, and I was getting better on the bike, riding more efficiently on the bike, but I was definitely much slower. So after that, I went to just riding for fun and just to enjoy cycling again, and I started getting a little faster again. My power still was not that great. Only went back up to around 240 or so. And yeah, I just kind of got to a place where I was stuck. So even though I was learning a lot, I couldn't catch up to what people know, or have learned over the last X amount of years of riding or cycling, or especially those that have went out and gotten licensed as a coach or whatever the case may be. And I'm still paying for those mistakes that I made today, as my power is even lower today than it's at basically the lowest point that it's been, just about. So anyway, I did get to a point where I started racing, and that's one of the things I can tell the most is I lack power. Like, my FTP is super low right now at 225, and that's actually came up from where it was a few months ago, where it was down to 210 or something. So anyway, it's good to have a coach putting your workouts in, showing like the next step for you, where you need to go, because often I was kind of stuck. You get to a point where it's like, all right, I know all these plans, I know all about threshold workouts, hill repeats, speed workouts, and VO2 max and all that kind of stuff, but what order do you do them in, what duration, how many times a week, all those kind of things. So basically, and it takes a lot to coach yourself, especially because I technically coach my wife as well. So I'm making 2 training plans every week or every month or whatever the case may be, staying on top of all that. And when you have a coach, does it all for you, just uploads it to Training Peaks, all you have to do basically is ride. And that alone has been like good for me to manage my time better. So yeah, another thing is there's a lot of training and opinions online, on Zwift, on Sufferfest or Trainer Road or whatever the case may be. Everyone does things a little different, but no one actually offers it for free either. And those that do offer things for free, typically it doesn't include like a full plan. It's just kind of like, oh, do this by this, do a 2x20 sweet spot effort or whatever the case may be, but nobody explains to you exactly what sweet spot is, what your sweet spot is, how do you approach it. Is it a big gear workout, small gear workout, which makes a difference? Are you going to do it on a hill or flats, which makes a difference also on what type of watts you can produce. So yeah, so anyway, basically that's one of the reasons why I decided to get a coach. Is just I thought, or I think, that's what I need to do to take me to where I want to go, and not only in racing but just in my overall health and fitness. And it's also one of the fastest ways to learn how to coach yourself if I want to go back to coaching myself in the future. I did coach football, and it's kind of funny because people often people often think coaching is easy, and even in football, someone you critique a coach or you say how horrible a play is or whatever the case may be until you do it yourself, and then you see it's not always that easy, and it's not always easy to get the knowledge from your head into your athlete. So that's basically the end of that interval, and now we're going to start a 4-minute rest period.
Huh?
He's using the trainer.
Not for me.
Get here, I'm suffering. My wife thinks it's easier to ride outside up the mountain, and for me it's much easier on the trainer.
Way easier on the
is
trainer
just
for
not
me.
my thing. So anyway, another question people have for me now that they know I have a coach is, how did I pick a coach? So basically that question is, why Chaz? And for me, I just felt
22
comfortable with
seconds faster.
Chaz, even though I don't know him personally. I've seen a lot of his videos on YouTube, things like that, and he races. So one, I did want a coach that currently still races. And Chaz gives on his videos a lot of public info. So I've seen his race videos, and I've seen some of his videos that he's critiqued of riders that he coaches, things like that. So I've also seen him on vegan cyclist videos, and I just felt comfortable with the information he was giving, and then just someone that's still competitive, and I can hold him accountable to what he's saying by what I see him do. So another thing is his YouTube channel. He gives public information on coaching. He actually will list or make videos on coaching workouts or training workouts. And I see a lot of videos, and there's a lot of coaches around the world that make YouTube videos, and often they don't actually provide the workout within the video. They talk to you about high intensity intervals or VO2 max training or sprint training or whatever the case may be, and it's kind of verbal, and it leaves you in a place where, all right, you said I need to do this training, you talked about training, but I don't exactly know how to train it, and it's a little, I just think Chaz does a good job of putting those videos together and then showing you exactly what the interval looks like. And that info's free. A lot of people will only give you generic info for free, and then everything else you have to sign up for, especially if coaching is their livelihood. So another reason why I went with Chad is, he was more affordable than some of these other coaches, and that's where his top tier. His top tier is lower than a lot of other coaches' entry level, and that could be a good thing. Maybe it's not a good thing. Time will tell. Or hopefully Chaz doesn't raise his prices. But some people also say you get what you pay for, and maybe Chaz has less experience, and that could be true. For me, it's not that big of a deal. One is because being that I've coached, I know coaching's not easy, and having conversations with Chaz before I signed up, I'm a mature athlete, so I'm a little bit older for a cyclist, and not only that, I'm just a mature athlete in life. Since I've played football, I've played college football, I've coached football, I've coached college football, won a national championship as a coach, as a college football coach. So I understand how it's not easy, but I also understand that I'm willing to work with my coach and learn together. I don't expect any coach to know everything, just like I didn't know everything in football, and there's not a single person on earth that knows every aspect of any sport. So they may claim to, but they don't. So for me, that's not that big of a deal, and I don't know exactly how much experience Chaz has. Of course, everybody has a coaching bio. You can look on there and say, I have 10 years, 15 years, whatever the case may be. I understand that a lot of that varies. 10 years, coaching in elementary school is not the same as 10 years of coaching in the NFL. So that all varies, and that's all to be determined. But so far, anytime I call him, he returns my call. If I give him a text, he returns the text. He critiques or looks at every one of my workouts, makes comments on it. Nothing's been late. Everything's been posted on time. Things of that nature. So, and he actually also, we got started before I even made a payment. So it's not like it's just all about the money. Another thing is, being that I'm an older athlete, a lot of coaches just want your money to help fund their racing. And the older you are, sometimes that's you get less attention. And when I'm paying for something, I want to be treated equal. So I'm not here to give you my money and then you only cater to your juniors that you're coaching or your younger athletes that you're coaching, and you have the attitude of, this guy's a little older, he's never going to improve. I definitely would go with someone else then. So that's one of the things that so far I've noticed with Chaz is, I don't know or care how much attention he's giving other people, because whenever I need him, so far he's been there for me. And granted, it's only been 3 weeks, but I haven't had he hasn't gotten back to me or anything like that issue. So far I'm comfortable with him, and at the moment that's all that matters. Another thing is he's in California. He's in Northern California. I'm in Southern California, but I didn't expect my coach to be out riding with me every day anyway. So, that's not a big issue to me. And if push comes to shove, I need to drive up there and get a ride in with him so he can get to know me better. Or if I had to ask him to come down here, I'm pretty sure we'd be able to arrange something and make that happen, especially after the COVID situation. Not to mention, since he races, we can probably just hook up at a race one day or something and get some conversation in, or go over whatever we need to go over. So I don't know if you hear me suffering during these intervals, but yeah, climbing's not my thing, and at the end of each one of these intervals, I do start to struggle a little bit to hold those watts. So, but I do think it's going to make me a stronger rider, and if I was coaching myself, I've ridden this mountain, Glendora Mountain Road, many times, and I've never once done intervals of it. So you just, on the weekends, you have a tendency to just go out and ride and put in a lot of junk miles, even if you're going hard. A lot of times they're not structured and don't have a specific goal in mind. So. All right. Oh, another thing is too, I'm supposed to be holding 225 watts. I'm struggling here, as you can see, but my goal was to hold, or my aim was to hold 230, and then with the fluctuations in grade, I thought that I might be able to hit the 225 mark if I shot for 230, and so far I was 2 for 2 on these intervals. Another thing I'd like to see, we all think we know what type of rider we are, and that's just our own perception. And having a coach will also allow someone from the outside to look at my numbers and say, oh, you think you're a sprinter, but actually your 5-minute power is where you're best, or where you're strongest, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes we're just not in touch with our reality. We're kind of stuck on what we want to be and not what the numbers or the data proves that we are. And you never know what you are until you train it. So, like at the moment, I think I'm not a climber, but until I train to climb, who knows? All right, another question I get from people is, now that I have a coach, is, what are my goals or what are my expectations? Like, where do I think a coach is gonna take me? So, basically, these are just my goals. My first goal is just to get as strong and as fit as I can. I mean, when I was coaching myself or riding for myself, yep, I saw a huge improvement in my fitness. However, it wasn't consistent. Even though my training or my workouts were consistent, depending on how I had structured my training, I did gain and lose fitness. And sometimes I couldn't answer that question of, why I'm not as fit as I thought I should be when I was training just as hard, if not harder. And of course, most people say, hey, you're probably overtraining, maybe you're riding too much, or, you're doing too much, or whatever the case may be. And they would say that without actually looking at my training, though. So, yeah, that's a good theory, and that's always something to keep in mind. But it's impossible to know unless someone actually looks at what you're doing to know if you're overtrained or not. So, another thing I did too is, I was on Training Peaks, and they have an annual training plan that you can kind of put together your own plan on, and it kind of you put in your A races and things like that. It'll stretch those dates out for you and kind of structure your plan to when you're supposed to be fit, what level you're supposed to be at, and kind of how you taper down to your race. And for me, I didn't think that was necessarily a good thing. My A race was going to be the Laverne Grand Prix, and my first race was the Ontario Dare to Race Crit, and those were only roughly a month apart from each other. So from the time I hit Ontario, which I was in decent shape for Ontario, nothing special for the race, I just finished with the pack, but I finished with the pack. Now, from that point on, you started tapering to be supposedly at your best for the Laverne Crit, which was almost a month away. It's like 3 weeks of tapering, and down to where you have your race week. And yeah, that definitely I don't think was a good thing for me. But 2 weeks later, when we hit Marietta, I don't know if anybody's watched the video, they saw like the results and some of the energy and lack of energy that I had, but I also think my fitness had dropped a lot in just those 2 weeks because I was doing a lot less training. I was doing a lot less on the bike, trying to follow the Training Peaks plan, and I don't think that's the way to go. At least not for me, at least not yet. Maybe my fitness needed to be at a much higher level in order for me to taper for a race, but I definitely was not fit enough to lose fitness going into what would have been the Laverne race, almost a month later. I would have been hard. I would have gotten dropped even sooner, just judging by how I felt after the Marietta races. And I can definitely tell my fitness was lower. Not only does Training Peaks show you a number that's supposed to relate to your fitness, I can feel that my fitness was lower. So another goal is just to be fit enough to be able to actually race my bike, not just to be in a race and complete a race or finish with the pack, but to actually do some racing maneuvers, an attack, get in a breakaway right off the front, sprint at the end, things of that nature, or just do some work for a teammate or anything like that, just something to where you're not just simply hanging on. And so far, the 3 races that I've done, I was just trying to hang on. So that's a big deal to be able to actually race your bike. And to me, the whole thing is a challenge. Just challenging myself is fun. That's actually what this channel is about. That's why it's called A Faster Me. It's not that I'm being narcissistic about it. It's that don't really worry about other people. It's just be as fast as you can be. And that starts with competing with yourself. So for me, I'm already competing with myself, even though as I struggle on this interval going up GMR, yeah, I'm competing with myself. So, so I'd love to be able to race my bike, actually just try an attack or something. Or who knows, 5 laps to go, maybe try to go off the front and solo the rest of the way. Just anything, just an attempt, have the fitness to attempt to move in a race. And then my third goal, or one of my last goals, is kind of a secondary goal or whatever, is just to I like to get back to at least 3.5 watts per kilo on my FTP. And of course that depends on what weight I am at the time. Currently I'm about 172 to 175 pounds. So that would put me at a 270, 275 FTP, which I know is doable, or I hope is doable. I mean, I had that just roughly 2 years ago. I was at and above that. So now it's like I'm down to 225, 230, whatever the case may be, and it feels like I will never be back to that. So hopefully I've relayed that to Chaz, and hopefully that he has a plan that can get me there. And I'd also love to be able to sprint again. I used to be able to do 12 to 1300 watts like pretty much every time I sprinted. That of course was when I was semi-fresh at least. Now that I'm a little bit more advanced in riding, I do understand that, yeah, producing 1300 watts when you're fresh to semi-fresh is a big difference than producing 12 or 1300 watts after you've been going hard for an hour or more, or 30 minutes or more even. You know, those watts don't come as easy. So more importantly than peak power, I'd like to sustain some power and be able to hold, you know, X amount of watts for, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. At one point I was just about, 685 for 30 seconds. And yeah, I can't get that now. So I'd like to get back to close to 700 as possible for 30 seconds. And, you know, whatever I can reach in the last, for 10 seconds, for 15 seconds, things like that. Boy, this interval is really kicking my butt right now. So, obviously you can tell by the way I'm breathing that I'm struggling to hold 190 watts when I'm supposed to be holding 225 here. At the time during the interval, I thought I failed it, but then after when I looked at the data, I actually did fail it, but by 1 watt. That was 224 is what I held with the goal. I was trying to hold 225, and my target was 230. So, but my actual interval was supposed to hold 225 watts, and now I'm barely holding 150. So, anyway,
I failed that last one.
Wrap this video up, and if you enjoy the content that I make, then hit that like button, subscribe, and even notifications if you'd like. And if you're looking for a coach, check out Chaz Torman at Elevate Coaching.